Shalom. First and foremost, we'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, which are the true names of the Heavenly Father and of the Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, who is a so-called black man. We want to say peace and salutations to all the sincere Akim out there that's pushing this truth and sincerity. Okay, and all the elders out there, the peace and blessings to all the elders out there who labor in the truth and taught us the truth. And as you can see on the title of the video, okay, this is the history of 70 AD. You know, 70 AD is a very important part of our history, okay, the Jewish history. Talking about the three tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, dealing with the Southern Kingdom, because that's mainly who it affected, 70 AD. And it also affected some Northern Kingdom tribes because you did have Northern Kingdom and in the land of Judah, or the land of Judea, as scholars would like to call Jerusalem, around that area too. Like you have in the book of Luke, the woman Asher, the woman Anna, who was of the tribe of Asher. Okay, and then you have some Ephraimites and Nigeria. So they were also expelled out the land as well. Okay, and also, you know, we weren't just scattered in Africa. Okay, in 70 AD, our people were scattered everywhere. Okay, we went to Europe. Okay, we were everywhere. Okay, so we just want to get the prophecy. Go ahead, bro. Matthew 24.
Okay. So verse 1?
No, Matthew 24 and 15.
Okay. Matthew chapter 24, verse 15.
Mm-hmm.
When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand.
All right, so the abomination of desolation, that's dealing with 70 AD. Okay, that's dealing with, you know, when the Romans came and destroyed our temple. Okay, that's what they came and did, and that's another tab that the so-called white man Esau has. That's another thing that he has on his tab. Okay, he destroyed our temple twice. Okay, he did it with the Greeks. Well, actually, let's bring it back, because he helped the Babylonians burn down our city, and then he came in with the Greeks and with King Antiochus and burned down our temple. Not burned it down, but had polluted our temple. Then here we go in 70 AD. Esau right back at it again, destroying our temple. So the so-called white man has a hefty tab to pay. And then bringing it to, in a spiritual sense, he destroyed us, which our bodies are the temple. He wore us out, like in Daniel 7 said. He wore out the saints of the Most High. So the so-called white man has a hefty tab to pay, but you got some people, some Israelite groups talking about Esau can make it. Esau can't make it. Not according to the Bible, not according to what they have done. Read that again though, 15.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 15.
Mm-hmm.
When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand.
Go ahead.
Come. Verse 16. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains.
Yeah, so let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. What's that mountains talking about? The mountains talking about Africa. Baruch Shah, give me Revelation, the 12th chapter. So that mountain is Africa. Revelation, the 12th chapter. Hold on, let me put this on. Do not disturb. Revelation 12, and give me verse 6.
Revelation chapter 12, verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness.
And the woman fled into the wilderness. Now, when it says when it's talking about the woman fled into the wilderness, the woman's talking about Israel. okay, talking about Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, southern kingdom. Matter of fact, start up. Go to verse 1.
Come. Revelation chapter 12, verse 1.
And you see how all these things tie in together. Okay, the prophecies, the history. All right, but go ahead, bro.
Come. And there, Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun.
Yeah, a woman clothed with the sun. That woman is dealing with Israel, okay? And the sun, the sun is dealing with wisdom, okay? That's what the sun is dealing with. Yep, wisdom. Go ahead.
Come. And the moon under her feet.
Yeah, and the moon is dealing with understanding. Go ahead.
Come. And upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
Which is talking about the 12 tribes of Israel.
Come. Verse 2. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered.
Right, because we were being oppressed under the Romans. Keep going.
Come. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads.
Tell me Esau. Go ahead.
Come. And this tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven.
You're right. So the tail drew the third parts of the. What did it say, Salah?
Come. And this tail, and his tails drew the third part of the stars of heaven.
Yeah, drew the third part of the stars of heaven, right? So that tail, okay, dealing with the Roman Empire, what they did, they were oppressing our people. Which the 3 stars are dealing with is dealing with the southern kingdom, the 3 tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because those are the tribes who were predominantly in the land at that time. Because when you read in the book of 2 Kings, the northern kingdom, they were taken into captivity under the Assyrians, and then when you read in 2 Ezra, the 13th chapter, they left the so-called Middle East and went over here to the Americas. So they were in the Americas at this time. So a great majority of them, because like I said earlier, you had some northern kingdom in the land. Go ahead.
And did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
Right, you read that in Matthew 2, because King Herod, what was King Herod trying to do? King Herod, he didn't want the Lord Yahushua to reign as king. So King Herod set out an order, or put out a decree to kill all of the male child. I believe up to 2 years old, or 2 or 3 years old, one of them. Yeah, hey, that's the devil for you. But go ahead.
Verse 5. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron.
Right, that's what King Herod didn't want. And who's that speaking of? Yahushua. Because that's what Yahushua is going to do. He's going to come back and rule all nations with the rod of iron. And rightfully so.
Right.
Because he's the Most High's son. You have a son, right? And that's his only begotten son.
Yeah.
You're going to give everything to your son. You're going to give all your inheritance to your son, especially if that's your one son. Go ahead.
And her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne. Verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness.
Yeah, all right. And the woman fled into the wilderness. And the woman fleeing to the wilderness. And the woman fleeing to the wilderness, talking about Africa, okay? The wilderness is Africa. We first went to northern Africa, and then we migrated down to West Africa. Keep going.
Where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
Right. So now give me that. Now give me that in the book of Babylon, the Timbuktu.
Book Babylon from Babylon and Timbuktu, page 84.
Yep.
In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state. Great slaughter. During the period of military governor of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
You see, a number of 1 million Jews fled into Africa. So our people was in Africa. That's why when the so-called white men came over there to West Africa, who were there? The Israelites. And they took the Israelites and sold them into slavery. Brought them on a boat and brought them into Egypt with ships. Okay, and that further proved that we're the Israelites. Okay, and that's renowned history. Okay, so I'm just trying to find this precept. Okay, give me Micah 4 and verse 10. Okay, because let's just get another precept on the field or the mountains, wilderness. Because really all that was set up so that we can go into America and serve slavery. So go ahead.
Micah chapter 4 verse 10.
It's just so crazy how the Most High just plays out his events. Mm-hmm. He let 70 AD happen. Yeah. So, and Yahweh said, you know, when you see the Romans coming, flee to the mountains. And the mountains is Africa, right. And that's where Esau picked us up at and put us into slavery. Right. It's crazy how, you know, the events happen. You know, the Most High really does know how to put a movie together. Mm-hmm. But go ahead.
Micah chapter 4 verse 10. Mm-hmm. Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, mm-hmm. like a woman in travail. Mm-hmm. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city.
For now shalt thou go forth out of the city. Go ahead.
And thou shalt dwell in the field.
And thou shalt dwell in the field. Now the field is dealing with Africa. Go ahead.
And thou shalt go even to Babylon.
And there, and from there you're going to go to Babylon.
Right.
Which we're in Babylon today. Okay? We're going to go into Babylon, which America is modern day Babylon. Read on.
There shall thou be delivered.
There you shall be delivered. The great deliverance is going to be from America.
Right.
That's why when people would say, you know, we there's Israelites in Africa, why don't y'all got that on the 12 tribes chart? Because Africa's not important right now. Right. Okay, it's not important. That's why the majority of the Israelites are here in America. That's why the 12 tribes chart is for the Western Hemisphere. But obviously, there's Israelites in Africa. My dad is from West Africa, and I'm an Israelite. My dad wasn't put on a boat and sent here, but he's of Israelite descent. So we do acknowledge that there are Israelites in Africa. We do know this. There's Israelites in Russia. There's Israelites in Europe. There's Israelites in Guadalupe. There's Israelites in Timbuktu. There's Israelites everywhere. We know this. But what's the point of having the tribes? Oh yeah, you know, Africans. It's no point. We're dealing with America now. Let's say if we were living in Africa, then we would have a total tribe chart for Africa.
Right.
But that's not the case. We're in America. Read that part again where it says, "Thou shalt be delivered."
And thou shalt go even unto Babylon.
And thou shalt be delivered. Oh, Salah. It says what?
Before that. And thou shalt go even unto Babylon.
And thou shalt go even to Babylon, which is America. Go ahead.
There shalt thou be delivered.
There we're going to be delivered. The great deliverance is coming out of the land of the north. Matter of fact, hold that. Mm-hmm. Get that in Jeremiah 3, verse 16. Yeah, hold on. Oh, no, you dropped it.
No, I got it.
Jeremiah 3, and I believe it's 16.
Jeremiah 3, verse 16.
It was not 16, and it's 18.
And it shall come to pass when ye multiply.
All right, probably verse 18.
It is 18. Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 18. In those days the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel.
So that's both kingdoms. That's how you know this prophecy didn't come to pass. And that's how you know that these so-called Jewish guys, they're not the real Jews. Because when you ask them about the northern kingdom, they say they don't know. I have conversation with countless Jews, numerous of Jews, so-called Jewish people. And I asked them, Well, what about the northern kingdom? They're like, well, I don't know. They don't know. That's why they call themselves Jewish, because you take out the suffix is and you just have the name Jew. What is Jew? Jews come from Judah, which is the 3 tribes. What happened to the northern kingdom? They don't know. Keep going.
Come. And they shall come together out of the land of the north.
Yeah, they shall come together out of the land of the north. Hold on. When the hell did the Jewish people come out of the land of the north?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say that they did. Where the hell is the northern kingdom? Northern kingdom wasn't with them. Because like I said, they proclaimed to be 3 tribes. Either right. Judah, Benjamin, or Levi, as they say. Or Levi. Which majority of them, I don't even hear this say Benjamin. It's either Judah or some of them are Levi. Or some of them they say, I don't know.
Right.
So how the hell are they the real Jews?
Right.
What? Go ahead, bro.
Come.
But man, what a complete joke.
Right.
White man, the so-called white man is a complete joke. And you know who else is a complete joke? You Christians that believe that they're the real Jews. Because y'all don't read the scriptures. Mm-hmm. If you so-called Christians had any biblical knowledge, any knowledge of the manuscripts, y'all will read and y'all don't read. And if y'all read, y'all say, this is the house of Judah and the house of Israel. But they just claim to be the house of Judah. What happened to the house of Israel?
Right.
What happened to them? Something ain't right. And then you would dig to do some research. But all you Christians are stupid. You know? And yes, I mean to insult you. Is that it on verse 18?
No, come a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the north, out of the land of the north, to the land that I have given for an inheritance unto your fathers.
Right, and that's the land of Canaan, which is the land of Israel. So that's it on that?
Come.
All right, go back to Micah.
Come.
And this is how you read the Bible, precept upon precept.
3:10.
No, was it Micah? No, I think it was 4.
Yeah, come.
Go ahead.
Come. Micah chapter 4, verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. There shalt thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thy enemies.
There shall the Lord redeem thee from the hand of thy enemies. What's that talking about? Deuteronomy 28, verses no man shall buy you, meaning no man shall redeem you. That's what Deuteronomy 28 is talking about. And who's going to be the redeemer? Isaiah 59 and 20.
Okay.
Go ahead, look at that. Isaiah 59 20. Let's see who's going to be the redeemer. Leave it to Torah only Israelites. They say God is going to come off his throne to do that. And listen, Yahweh's not coming off his throne to do that, bro. The Lord is going to send somebody. And that somebody is Yahweh Shai, who's going to be your future Lord and Savior. Who's going to put to death anybody who doesn't want him to reign over them, pursuant to Luke 19 and 27. But go ahead, Ak.
Isaiah chapter 59, verse 20. And the Redeemer shall come to Zion, and unto them that turn from transgressions, and Jacob, saith the Lord.
Yeah, that's it on that, right? That's on that verse.
Yes.
See, and the Redeemer shall come to Zion. Who's that Redeemer? Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach, our Lord and Savior, who's going to come in the big, gigantic so-called UFO, which is IFO, which earlier, this channel on YouTube just put out UFOs. More UFOs have been found up in the sky. Hey man, so the Lord is about to make his return, man. You know. So all right, bro. Did you finish that off in the book of Babylon Temple 2, right?
Yes.
Okay, come. Yeah, come. All right. So now go to Daniel 9 and 27. Okay, because Yahweh Shai said. Because Yahweh Shai said that which was spoken in Daniel, right? All right, so let's see what. And this is how you know Yahweh. This is how you know the so-called New Testament is legit.
Right.
That's how you know it's legit. People try to say, "Oh, the New Testament is not legit. It was written by the Romans." Come on, bro. There are historians that take witness, that has witness of Yahweh Shai who walk in the earth. Yeah. Let's go. Daniel 9 and 27.
All right. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27.
Matter of fact, start verse 26.
26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off.
Yeah, shall the Messiah be cut off. And then Messiah is on Yahweh Shai. Okay? What do it mean by cut off? It means dying. Go ahead.
Come. But not for himself.
Yeah, not for himself, because he wasn't just, he didn't just be put on the cross for himself.
Mm-hmm.
He was put on the cross for us, children of Israel. Because that's what Yahweh Shai came to do, came to reconcile us back to the Heavenly Father, because the Heavenly Father cast us away. Go ahead.
Come. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary.
Right, and that prince talking about Titus Vespasian, like the brother read.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he came in with the Romans. Go ahead.
Come. And the end thereof.
Did you read and
shall destroy the city and the sanctuary.
Right, and shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. That's what they came and did. They came and they spoiled us, man, and destroyed our city and burnt it down. That's what they did. Keep going.
Come. And the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. Verse 27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading.
Right. So that's why we can't sacrifice. So when people say, "Oh, you gotta keep the law, right? How about your gods and sacrificing?" Read that part again.
Come. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease.
And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. We don't have a temple, so how can we keep that law?
Word.
How can we keep the law? How can we sacrifice if we don't have a temple? We don't have a temple, so that's why we can't do any sacrificing. Keep going.
And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and the determined shall be poured upon the desolate.
All right, he just made he just came in there and just made it desolate, man. That's what he did. Now give me Zechariah 14. Let's start verse 1. Because 70 AD was prophesied plenty of times in the scriptures.
Zechariah 14.
Okay, in 70 AD, okay, it really started off in the year 66 AD, and the brother has the source. It really started in 66 AD, but it really didn't start amping up until 70 AD, and then ended in 73 AD. You know, the brother has the source, because the scripture says to prove all things. So we have the source. You guys can look it up for yourself. Go ahead, bro.
14 and 1.
Sorry, verse 1.
Zechariah chapter 14, verse 1. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle.
All right, and I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. Now, why it says I will gather all nations of Jerusalem to battle? Because, as you know, just like today, the Roman army back then, it just wasn't the Romans. Just like in the U.S. Army, you have different nations. You have different nationalities of people in the army, but it's still the American army.
Right.
So just like then, there in the ancient Roman Empire, they had different nations in that army. But go ahead.
And the city shall be taken.
Yeah, and the city shall be taken. That's how our city was. Our city was taken, man.
Right.
It was robbed. Keep going.
And the houses rifled. And women ravished.
Yeah, and women ravished. Read on.
And half of the city shall go forth into captivity.
Yeah, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity. Go ahead.
And the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city.
Right. It wasn't fully cut off until 73 AD. All right. So now let's get into the sources because we're finished the scriptures right now. So read that first source, Shalom, Yeremiah, brother Yeremiah.
Hey, Shalom, man.
Oh yeah.
this is the source from eyewitnesstohistory.com. You can look this up. It says it's titled "The Romans Destroyed the Temple at Jerusalem 70 A.D."
Mm-hmm. And if the Bible is fake, how come there's all this sources about 70 A.D.?
Right.
Are these people just making this up?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, bro.
Come. In the year 66 A.D., the Jews of Judea rebelled against their Roman masters.
Right, because they were just sick of being oppressed by the Romans.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Come. In response, the Emperor Nero dispatched an army under the generalship of Vespasian to restore order.
Yeah, and that's the prince right there. Go ahead.
Come. By the year 68, resistance in the northern part of the province had been eradicated, and the Romans turned their full attention to the subjugation of Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
The same year, the Emperor Nero died by his own hand,
mm-hmm.
creating a power vacuum in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
In a resultant chaos, Vespasian was declared emperor and returned to the imperial city. It fell to his son Titus to lead the remaining army in the assault on Jerusalem. The Roman legion surrounded the city and began to slowly squeeze the life out of the Jewish stronghold by the year 70.
Yeah, because a lot of revolts. You know, you had a lot of zealots that came up and were trying to resist the Romans. Like one group, you had the Sicarii. One group was the Sicarii. You had many other zealot groups. Go ahead.
Con.
Matter of fact, bro. Oh damn, never mind. Go ahead.
Con. By the year 70, the attackers had breached Jerusalem's outer walls and began a systematic ransacking of the city. The assault.
And they ransacked our city. Go ahead.
Con. The assault culminated in the burning and destruction of the temple that served as the center of Judaism.
Yeah, Judaism.
Right.
Judaism is a religion.
Right.
Okay, that is religion. The Jews wasn't practicing a religion. Okay, being a Jew was their nationality. Being an Israelite was their nationality. Go ahead.
In victory, the Romans slaughtered thousands. Of those,
the Romans slaughtered thousands. Go ahead.
Of those spared from death, thousands more were enslaved and sent to toil in the mines of Egypt.
Hold on. What'd that say?
Thousands more were enslaved and sent to toil in the mines of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Others were dispersed to arenas throughout the empire to be butchered for the amusement of the public.
And that's why Zechariah 14 it says what? That the city shall go forth into captivity.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
The temple's sacred relics were taken to Rome, where they were displayed in celebration of the victory.
Damn. And they were celebrating our victory. See, the Romans got held to pay.
Right.
That's why the Lord had to raise up Septimius Severus, which was an Israelite, by the way, to take down the Romans, man. Okay, and that kicked off. I want to say that kicked off Jake ruling the Roman Empire, because Septimius Severus, he was an Israelite. He took down the Romans, and then that's when Jake started to rise up into power and the Roman Empire. Go ahead.
The rebellion spewed on for another 3 years and was finally extinguished in 73 AD.
Oh, you see, in 73 AD. Okay, because like it said in Zechariah 14, man, let me go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is bringing it full circle. It says in Zechariah 14 that it says, and half of the city, this verse 2, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. That happened around what, the 70 AD period.
Mm-hmm.
But then what? In 73 AD, what did it say? In 73 AD?
In 73 AD, with the fall of various pockets of resistance, including the strong.
Not about the people dying. we just read.
They were enslaved in the mines.
Yeah, it's probably this.
The rebellion spewed on for another 3 years and was finally extinguished in 73 AD.
You see, finally extinguished in 73 AD. You see, so that's when it really came to an end. Keep going.
And with the fall of various pockets of resistance, including the stronghold of Masad. That's it.
That's it on all that?
Oh, you want me to read it?
Yeah,
okay.
All that.
Our only first-hand account of the Roman assault on the temple comes from the Jewish historian Flavius.
Or Josephus.
Josephus.
Yeah, with Josephus, he's a reliable source. Go ahead.
Josephus was a former leader of the Jewish revolt who had surrounded the Romans and had won favor with from Vespasian. In gratitude, Josephus took on Vespasian's family name, Flavius, as his own. We join his account as the Romans fight their way into the inner sanctum of the temple. The rebels shortly after attacked the Romans again, and a clash followed between the guards of the sanctuary and the troops who were putting out the fire inside the inner court. The latter routed the Jews and followed in the hot pursuit right up to the temple itself. Then one of the soldiers, without awaiting any orders and with no dread of so monumentous a deed, but urged on by some supernatural force, snatched a blazing piece of wood and climbing onto another soldier's back, hurled the flaming brand through a low golden window that gave access on the north side.
Man, it was going in.
Come to the rooms that surrounded the sanctuary. As the flames shot up, the Jews let out a shout of dismay that matched the tragedy. They flocked to the rescue with no thought of sparing their lives or husbanding their strength. For the sacred structure that they held constantly guarded with such devotion was vanishing before their very eyes.
Good.
No extortion or threat could now restrain the impunity of the legions, for passion was in supreme command. Crowded together around the entrances, many were trampled down by their companions, others stumbling on the smoldering and smoke-filled ruins of the porticos, died miserably as they were defeated. As they drew closer to the temple, they pretended not even to hear Caesar's orders, but urged the men in front to throw in more firebrands. The rebels were powerless to help. Carnage and fight.
Yeah, why? Because the Lord wasn't with us. They didn't follow what? Remember in Deuteronomy, the 18th chapter, it said that whosoever shall not listen to the prophet who I'm going to send in my name, I will require that of thee. What did Yahweh say? When you see the Romans coming, go flee to the mountains.
Right.
So that's why the Lord killed them, man. Because they didn't listen to what the Lord said to do. And whatever Yahweh says is law. So that was a law.
Right.
See, go ahead.
Most of the slain were peaceful citizens, weak and unarmed, and they were butchered where they were caught. The heap of corpses mounted higher and higher about the altar. A stream of blood flowed down the temple steps, and the bodies of those slain at the top slipped to the bottom. When Caesar failed to restrain the fury of his frenzied soldiers, and the fire could not be checked, he entered the building with his generals and looked at the holy place of the sanctuary and all the furnishings, which exceeded by far the accounts current in foreign lands, and fully justified their splendid repute in our own. As the flames had not yet penetrated in the inner sanctum, but were consuming the chambers that surrounded the sanctuary, Titus assumed correctly that there was still time to save the structure. He ran out by personal appeals. He endeavored to persuade his men to put out the fire, instructing a centurion of his bodyguards, Liberatus, a centurion of his bodyguards of lancers to club any of the men who disobeyed his orders. But their respect for Caesar and their fear of the centurion's staff, who was trying to check them, were overpowered by their rage. Their destitution of the Jews and an utterly controllable lust for battle, most of them were spurred on moreover by the expectation of loot, convinced that the interior was full of money, and dazzled by observing that everything around them was made of gold. But they were forestalled by one of those who had entered into the building, and who, when Caesar dashed out to restrain the troops, pushed a firebrand in the darkness.
You're still in the red?
No.
Oh, we come.
In the darkness, into the hinges of the gate. Then, when the flame suddenly shot up from the interior, Caesar and his generals withdrew, and no one was left to prevent those outside from kindling the blaze. Thus, in defiance of Caesar's wishes, the temple was set on fire. While the temple was ablaze, the attackers plundered it, and countless people who were caught by them were slaughtered. There was no pity for age, no regard was accorded rank. Children and old men, laymen and priests, alike were butchered.
Yeah. Talking about us, right? The Jews. Now, we read Deuteronomy 28, right?
Right. No regard.
Deuteronomy 28, and I'm gonna read verse 50. It says, "A nation of first countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor shew favor to the young." Lines up right with that.
Right.
Go ahead, bro.
Come on. Laymen and priests alike were butchered. Every class were pursued and crushed in the grip of war. Whether they cried out for mercy, or offended, or offered resistance. Through the whirl of the flames, streaming far and wide, the groans of the falling victims were heard. Such was the height of the hill and the magnitude of the blaze, that the entire city seemed to be ablaze, and the noise, nothing more deafening and frightening, could be imagined. There were the war cries of the Roman legions as they swept onwards in a mass. The yells of the rebels, encircled by the fire and sword and panic of the people who, cut off above, fled into the arms of the enemy. And their circles, in their shrieks as they met their fate. The cries on below, and not many people who were exhausted and tongue-tied as a result of hunger, when they beheld the temple on fire, found strength once more to lament and wail. And the surrounding hills added their echoes to the deafening din. But more horrifying than the din were the sufferings. The Temple Mount, everywhere enveloped in flames, seemed to be boiling over from its base, yet the blood seemed more abundant than the flames.
That's how much bloodshed that's how much blood that was being shed. The Romans, that's why I read Daniel 7, it talks about how the Romans, let me read it real fast. Because the Romans, they were very fierce in war. Let's see. Daniel 7 and verse 7, it says, "After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, because just how much they were conquering, and just how fierce they were in war, and strong exceedingly." It says, "And it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns." So you see how Daniel likens the Roman Empire. It was just fierce. It had great iron teeth. Iron is a real strong. It's a real strong metal. Like iron, that's one of the strongest. But go ahead, bro.
About to finish up.
Con.
Numbers of the slain greater than those of the slayers. The soldiers climbed over heaps of bodies as they chased the fugitives. Josephus' account, and then this is given like the source of it. This is the reference. Josephus' account appears in Cornfield, Billy Education.
You skip that.
Yeah, but that's it on that.
Wait, gone.
Scrolling over heaps of bodies as they chased the fugitives.
Oh, gone. Exactly. As they chase the fugitive. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 25. It says, the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And that's what's because of 70 AD. After they, kicked us out of our land, we went to all kingdoms of the earth.
Right.
But that was just a little history of 70 AD. Okay. Matter of fact, let me see this. Let me see this real quick. Because like I said earlier, it really started in 66 AD, but it ain't really really started to kick off until 70 AD. All right, but Lord willing, if you brothers, if you sisters were edified, the next one I say shalom.
Shalom.